me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me know that love is all around me.
Oh, let me know that love is all around.
Oh, let me know that love is all around.
Let me know that love is all around.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me learn from all the ways I fall.
Let me learn from all the ways I fall.
Oh, let me know that love can heal us all.
Let me know that love can heal us all.
Oh, let me know that love can heal us all.
Let me know that love can heal us all.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me serve in a holy, holy way.
Let me serve in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me serve in a holy, holy way.
Let me serve in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me share the good that's overflowing.
Let me share all the good that's all around me.
Oh, let me care what goes around the world.
Let me care what goes around the world.
Oh, let me serve in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me serve in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me serve in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me serve in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me share the good that's overflowing.
Let me share all the good that's overflowing.
Oh, let my steps reveal a pack of peace.
Let me stand and reveal a pack of peace.
Oh, let me talk each day a little kindness.
Let me talk each day a little kinder.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me live in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me serve in a holy, holy way.
Let me serve in a holy, holy way.
Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way.
Let me love in a holy, holy way.
Good morning. Happy Sunday. All right. We're going to ask you to participate with us on this one.
1, 2, 3.
Get up and say hello to your neighbor. Give him a hug. Show your love. All right. Take a look at the person next to you.
The person next to you.
Say, I recognize the God in you.
Say, I recognize the God in you.
Now feel the love in the sanctuary.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Lift your voice and repeat after me.
Lift your voice and repeat
We
after
come
me.
together.
We come 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 together.
In the name of love. We come together.
Come together.
We come together. We come together.
Come together
In the name of love. Yeah. All right. Take a look at the person next to you.
Take a look at the person next to
Say,
you.
God loves you and I love you too.
Say, love you and God loves you too.
Now feel the love in sanctuary.
Love in sanctuary.
Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together.
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 In the
Suzanne, I was putting my thing on. This was not one of those moments. Honest. Suzanne Jensen, please help me welcome her. Thank you. You know me too well after all these years. All right. So as we batten down the hatches in the back there, we're going to go ahead and get underway. Now, should we have a moment of shaming when the people show up later?
Yes.
Or we all just turn around? Welcome.
We'll write a theme song for it.
Okay, no, cancel. We're not about shame here. We're about freedom. All right, so let's take a deep conscious breath. Release it. Just allow ourselves to surrender to this eternal now moment as we come together for our call to service, which we call lighting the flames of faith. And we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here this morning. So as Suzanne lights the first candle, it's for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the second candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the third candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the fourth candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the fifth candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the sixth candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We light the seventh candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. We light the eighth candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. The ninth candle we light for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And the 10th candle we light for all those who are as yet unaware of the power and presence of spirit in their lives and for the space we hold for them here at our center. And as Suzanne lights the healing candle, please put silently into the light the names of anyone you wish to have experience the healing flame of God's eternal love.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and I see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
I know that an infinite intelligence, infinite love, infinite good is everywhere present this morning, in our lives, inner and outer, and in being. I know that we experience this perfection and wholeness in blissful presence right here, right now. And we give thanks for our center and the services here today. And we appreciate the blessings of our ministers, our practitioners, and the congregants. Thankful for Spirit's word, message, song, and music provided in our individualized expressions. We open in receptivity to this good, these gifts. Today is good and very good, and we are so blessed. I release all that I have declared to the law of mind, knowing that it is already so, and together we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. Good morning.
Good morning.
The power of decision. One morning following my spiritual practice of treatment and meditation, an idea arose in mind to go and revisit the book, The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. And so I did. And of course, it was just what was needed. It was right and perfect for me. In the book, Barker goes over the creative process and reminds us of who we are and how God works through us. It's going back to basics, which always brings clarity and grace. And I quote, "There is one basic mental law. What you place in your subconscious mind must appear as your experience. Your subconscious mind acts as a law of creation. Your subconscious mind is a law of cause and effect." Barker tells us that decision is the most important function of the individual mind. No creative process can begin until a decision is made. I recall sometimes in life this experience of things in daily life appearing gloomy. It seemed to be an atmosphere of blah around the happenings of life. And this was always a mystery to me when that would happen. Well, I think Barker clarified the situation by stating, you cannot think and feel negatively over a period of time and have positive situations maintained in your experience. The law of the subconscious can only bear the kind of fruit based on the ideas that you put into it. Clearly, the responsibility for our choice of ideas is ours. This responsibility cannot be dodged. Whatever we think about and give energy to manifests. It's our choice. When we are clear in this truth, right ideas arise in consciousness, and when decided upon and acted upon, they bring forth right results. This is the process. We know what we want, decide it shall happen, and act upon the decision. We do not need to know how it will come to pass. That's the function of the subconscious. Honestly, I was in a funk before I was led to pick up this book again. I was not feeling positive. I was perceiving my whole life situation as less than preferable. Thankfully, I finally saw that life was showing me the way out of this mental state by presenting the power of decision. I saw that the problem was my choice of thought, and I decided to change my mind. I began putting my attention on the ideas, attitudes, situations, and people who added to my well-being, calling forth what brought me joy. I decided to release what did not serve me. And guess what? I slept very comfortably and well that night. I had great dreams of prosperity, and very next day, a friend called before I even got out of bed with great news. Something I had been wanting for a long time came into being. I rediscovered that attention has power. It starts the creative process producing what we want. Once again, I am blessed. So I say, recognize your power, and I'm speaking to myself. Be aware of it. Decide to be healthy. Decide to be happy. Decide to be creative. Decide to live richly. And take action on those decisions. Have an expectancy that they are so, and know them into being. Namaste.
Good morning, everybody. Please welcome Brenda, Jerry, and Terry singing up here. Thank you, guys. David Levis and Kent Moore. We are very pleased to have our special guest singer here today. Please welcome Miss Angela Carol Brown.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. And I get a feeling that I've never had before, no. And I just want to tell y'all, I want to tell y'all, I said y'all right now, that's all I believe. I believe that. Something's got a hold on me.
Oh, it must be love.
I said something's got a hold on me right now.
Yeah, it must be love.
Let me tell you now, I never felt like this before. Something's got a hold on me, won't let go. Believe I'd fly if I only could. It sounds so strange, but sure feels good. I said, oh,
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 oh, oh, oh. I said, yeah, oh, now. I said it must be love.
you know it must be love.
Yeah, yeah, now. Something's got a hold on me, yeah.
Oh, it must be love.
I said now something's got a hold on me right now, child.
Yeah, it must be love.
I said now I never felt like this before. Something's got a hold on me, won't let go. Believe I'd fly if I only could. It sounds so strange, but it sure feels good. I said, oh,
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 oh, oh, yeah, 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 that family. Oh, it must be
you
love.
know it must be love.
Oh, let me tell you now, my heart feels happy, my feet feel light, I shake all over, I feel all right. I never thought it could happen to me. You got me happy when I was in misery. I never thought it could be this way. Lord, sure gonna put a hurtin' on me. I said, oh,
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 oh, oh, said family. Oh, it must be
you
love.
know it must be love.
You know it walks like love,
Talk like love.
and it talks like
You
love.
know it talks like love.
Makes me feel alright
Makes me feel alright.
in the middle of the night.
In the middle of the night.
La 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 la,
La 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 la.
la 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 la.
La 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 la.
You know it must be love.
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 You know it must be love. Yeah. You know it must be love. No, it must be love.
I love that it feels like church up in here, right? Yeah. Thank you. That was wonderful. Great stuff. So, good morning, everybody. It's wonderful to see you all. I'm going to highlight just a few things coming up. First of all, I might be harassing you after service to buy raffle tickets. If you haven't bought any yet, I'm going to hit you up to buy some. We're raffling off a week at a condo in Lake Tahoe. So for $10 per ticket, you might win a really nice stay up in Lake Tahoe for a whole week with $100 for gas to get there, right? How bad is that? Also, coming up, if you drive a Prius, you can use the money for gambling. Yes, indeed you can. Or drinking, or food, whatever. Next Sunday is our general membership meeting. So we really want you all to be there, but we need for all of you to be here also. So right after second service, we will be having our big board meeting with all of you here. And afterwards, we'll be having a potluck. So come to that, please. We really need you to be here. And the third thing that I really want to highlight is that we have our spring fling coming up on May the 3rd. May the 4th be with you. May the 4th, because we were planning to have it on May the 4th, so it was going to be May the 4th be with you. Right? But now it's May the 3rd be with you. May the 4th be with you on the 3rd. Yeah, there you go. There it is. Today is our healing support group. By the way, I forgot to say, if you're new here, you are most welcome here, and we're happy that you decided to make this your Sunday morning. Home. Good. I like that. Couldn't find the right word there, but. Yes, after losing an hour of sleep. So welcome if you're new. And please just say hello to each other, because we didn't get to do that, really. Turn to your right, turn to your left, look behind you, say hello to each other. Hey, listen, also, last night we had a great thing going on here. We had a Freedom to Choose introductory session. There's a prison ministry called Freedom to Choose. They go into the prisons and facilitate the inmates being able to see their own divine nature. And so they came here last night and did a little introduction to what they're about. Some of us were here. It was very powerful. Hope you can come and check that out next time. There's a bunch of announcements going on. Suzanne is facilitating, as she always does so wonderfully, the healing support group today at 1 o'clock. So if there's something you want to shine a light of healing on, or magnify in your experience, come to that group. It's 1 o'clock in the back room. And I think that's all I got. Thank you. Coming up Wednesday night. Sorry, I forgot to say that. Kirtan on Wednesday night.
So let's stand for the Declaration of Principles. We believe in one universal spirit manifesting through all, natural and incarnated in us. We believe that the universal spirit is personal to and reveals itself through everyone recognizes its presence. We believe that our faith operates upon a law of mind which automatically manifests in our experience according to that faith. We believe in the unity of all life and in the immortality of the indivisible soul forever and ever. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the givingness of life to all.
Let's get to the talk. All right. It's serious. Time to get spiritual. So welcome, everyone. My name is Reverend Michael McMorrow. I am the spiritual director here at the Center for Spiritual Living in Granada Hills. Believe it or not, I'd like to welcome everybody online. Everybody just wave and say, hey! So we're glad you're here with us, near and far. You know, I got to tell you, so Aaron does all the stuff on Facebook. And do you remember that one photograph that was circulating with the little girl with joy? Or she's just like, ha! And she's like running through the sprinkler, and that got 40,000 views. Wow. So, you're part of something big here. Just saying. And my post got like 13. Yeah. It's growing. All right, so today's talk title is How God Works Through Us, and we're continuing to work with the 10 justice principles that we've been exploring for this year of 2019. And last month, if you remember, we focused on oneness. This month, we are focusing on integrity. And specifically, we have a topic to be truthful in facts, in motives. So it's the idea that we're looking out in the outer world, and we're looking to see how truth in facts and motives show up. But really, we can't change anything out there until we change it in here, yes? Yes, because what we are experiencing in life, what we have come to learn, when we come to a teaching like this, and even the psychologists teach this, is that what we are perceiving with, you know, we receive what we perceive. Ooh, I just made that up, I think. Someone fact check it. I'm going to claim it. But the idea being that, you know, our consciousness really creates our life. So we're working with oneness and integrity. So this is important, for these basic principles are paramount in this new approach to religion or spirituality. And it's about really grasping and knowing our connection with the divine is so complete that the Spirit is integrated into every aspect of our being. So in teachings like this, in New Thought teachings, we are really stepping into this idea that the great metaphysician Jesus, a couple thousand years ago, destroyed the tomb, destroyed it, right? That Holmes says that his body was spiritualized. Now, what does that mean? That means that the Holy Spirit is expressing itself in, through, and as all of creation, as the Alpha, as the Omega. That there is no aspect of creation that does not have the Spirit in it in some form. From the tiniest bits of matter to the furthest reaches of the galaxy. Beyond the Gamma Quadrant, where Voyager is stuck in for the last 7 seasons. But we're even out beyond that, and then simultaneously, all at once, it's happening. Not bound by time, bound only by the nature of its own being, which is infinite. And that we have been created in its image and likeness so that it may experience more of itself by means of your life and by means of mine. So, what happens if you're demonstrating a life that's not so wonderful? Well, that's kind of what we're looking at today. Right? When we understand that we are one with the divine and are willing to acknowledge and to explore how that oneness is integrated in every aspect of our being, most especially in our thinking and in our heart, right? Then we really do come to see that we are the point of power in our life, right? Because we are expressing what? The power of Spirit. It's a very powerful way to live. So then the trick, of course, is to get our thinking right. Now, this is not always easy, because we've often been downloaded with a bunch of stuff that we really don't need or have not reasoned our way into. And Ernest Holmes and others explore this, whether it's through family, through schooling, right? Through the mythology of whatever country we may have been raised in, even a global consciousness that has within it this idea that in order to get ahead, you have to struggle, right? That it's a dog-eat-dog world, right? These are ideas of a life of separation, of duality, of God and other. Right? And so one of the key tenets of this teaching then is to understand our oneness with the divine and our willingness to allow the Spirit to do its thing by means of our life. And when our outward actions demonstrate this principle, or these principles, it can be said that we are integrated, that we demonstrate integrity. So I was poking around on the internet and I found a blogger, Victoria Roach of CSL Morristown, which is in New Jersey. And she writes this, that the word integrity has evolved from the Latin adjective integer, meaning whole and complete. So, and it's even a little more interesting than that, in that the Latin in and tangere, which means to touch. So it's this sense of wholeness is really to be in touch with ourselves then, right? So in this context, integrity is the inner sense of wholeness deriving from qualities in the affirmative, such as honesty, forthrightness, accountability, qualities that show a consistency of character demonstrated then by our actions, because they are simply who we are. So it becomes, when something is really a deeply integrated principle, it demonstrates by default. Now, I can think of times in my own life, the things that I was demonstrating were not exactly welcome by me or particularly by any one of you. If you count obnoxiousness as a principle, then I had that in droves. Maybe I still do. So qualities that show a consistency of character demonstrated by our actions, because that's just the way we are. And of course, the lack of principles, they demonstrate too. The lack of principles, or the opposite of, say, forthrightness and accountability, can also show up. Now, haven't we known people who seemingly are really poor liars? You ever known anyone like that? Right? It's like they try, like maybe your kids, when they try and tell a lie and their face would like turn red and they would stammer, and like your mom Dar would be up and you could figure out, yeah, they're lying. No? I don't see any nodding heads. Okay, maybe that was just my mom. But all right, and then so you have some people who are that way, and then you have others who couldn't tell the truth about anything because all they know is deception. Maybe you've seen an example of that in the last couple of years. So as people of faith, and certainly as practitioners of consciousness, which is what we are, we strive to be driven by the better angels of our nature. So we move from this idea of our snidely whiplash consciousness, which is really kind of a consciousness of fear and survival. And maybe you've never been that way, but I certainly have. As a business owner before ministry, that was kind of the driving principle, right? Go get them, competition, fear-driven, fear of failure, right? Fear I won't get paid. Fear of the tax man. Oh, I don't want to pay any taxes. Well, that's kind of so thinking about that in the field of consciousness, right? I don't want to pay any taxes. What are you saying? I don't want to make any money, right? Because the only way you're going to pay taxes is if you make money, unless you have a really stupid accountant. But most accountants are pretty clever. And legal. Get the legal one. But you get what I'm saying, right? And I have to tell you, believe it or not, that took me a while to get. Right? It took me a while. And when I understood that paying taxes was actually a function of my prosperity, right? My gross tripled. Now, I'd like to say that all went in my pocket, but my gross tripled. So I proved this teaching in business. That's why I'm teaching spiritual economics with Eric Butterworth right now. And in a way, it's kind of easier than measuring like love and friendship, right? It's like, okay, how many acts of love did I get today? Let's see. Grocery store, on-ramp at the freeway, right? But with business, it's a little easier, right? You just count, and hopefully you're in the positive. So as practitioners of consciousness, we strive to be driven by the angels, the better angels of our nature, or more accurately, by forms of thought that are informed by and driven from our full realization of the divine at work in our life. Really, the full realization of the divine expressing as our life. Now, if you come from an older faith system as I did, that was kind of a blasphemous thought. Because I learned from a very young age, "Oh Lord, I am not worthy to receive you." Right? That's the Catholic thing before you take communion. Which is kind of silly when a kid's like 7 or 8 years old. Right? And I remember thinking that, wait a minute, I thought he said, "Bring the little children unto me," and now I'm not worthy to receive you? And what's going on? Mystery of faith, my son. So we philosophically believe we are one in the Spirit, but how exactly does that work? And how does it work when we are experiencing or seemingly experiencing challenge or struggle in life? So the writer, theologian, modern mystic, Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman explores this faith dilemma in his book, in his many books and essays, but in this particular book we're working with The Inward Journey, which it's worth buying and reading, where he explores those times when we feel alone in the world and feel like we have no place to turn to. And he writes in this book, in the chapter on page 91, "If thou standeth beside me," that there are times when the sense of aloneness is very acute. There are times when the sense of aloneness is very acute. Often these are times of struggle where the odds are uneven. So it seems like the world is stacked up against you. Curious indeed is it that sense of being alone is apt to be most acutely felt when the concentration upon the matter at hand is absorbing. So in other words, we have a life challenge that has presented itself, but then we become so absorbed, become so absorbed in the problem, right, that we feel like we're out on a limb all by ourselves, that we feel we are separate, alone. Maybe even, what's the use? I can't go on. Whatever it is. Right? But that idea of separation sneaks in there. And that's basically our whole practice in this teaching, is cultivating and knowing that relationship is always there. Curious indeed is that the sense of not being alone, or the sense of being alone, is apt to be most acutely felt when concentration upon the matter at hand is absorbing. This means that there is available at the moment no margin of me, this is Thurman speaking, there is no margin of me exposed to the presence of God. To be aware that God is standing beside me calls for some measure of detachment from my own personal struggle and turmoil. So this is why we're always pitching this idea of doing meditation in New Thought teachings and in religious science specifically, which is what we teach here. Right? That in meditation we create some space in the mind so that with enough space we can step back and observe our life rather than being all caught up in it. So think about in your own experience some time where, okay, maybe this isn't true for you, but just bear with me, that you had some point in your life that was just full of drama. No one here, right? All right? So there's all this drama going on, and then you kind of come to yourself, and you have a moment of clarity, and you're able to step back and observe it, and all of a sudden your mentality gets calmer, and then the calmness of your mentality then pops an idea, right? A solution. Our focus then changes from being absorbed in the problem to observing the solution, right? That's what is known as divine guidance, right? Now sometimes what can accompany that is a deep, overwhelming sense of awe and connection, of knowing that all is well. That's called a spiritual experience. I live for those. I live for those. They used to be fleeting. They used to be fleeting, but now I pay better attention. And I pay better attention because I have a meditation practice. And I know that if my meditation practice was stronger and more committed, that I would have these experiences even more. Because the only thing standing in the way of our experience of the divine is moi. Not in the way of you, not of your experience. That's up to you. That each one of us are the guardians of our own consciousness. So that's a good news, bad news thing. What it really means is that we are no longer powerless. Right? So we've heard a lot of talk about privilege in the last couple of years, right? And we've seen a lot of pushback on that. But you know, you can't really have a conversation about privilege if you're feeling powerless. Right? Have you noticed if you've talked about privilege, it's from the people within your circle of friends that are actually okay within themselves. Right? They have a strong consciousness. They can talk about discordant ideas and not take things personally or be defensive. This is really a wonderful skill to have in your business, and particularly if you're married. And so I'm so grateful that Stephanie really understands how to do that. So he says this, that it's entirely possible that the presence of God may be most acutely felt in and through struggle and turmoil, that it's not something apart from our involvements, but a quality of presence that emerges, this is Thurman again, in the midst of my tempest. So in that crazy thinking, right, that there still is this sense of the presence, and in fact it's confusing because then you think that God is doing this to me, that my life is happening to me. Right? And this really is kind of what is called in some circles, it's known as first kingdom consciousness, that our life is happening to us. And if life is happening to us, are we the victim or the victor? We're the victim. This is victim consciousness. When we allow the tendency of our thought, I'm not talking about wandering off in the weeds once in a while, but the tendency of our thought, being that our life is happening to us. This is victim thinking. Now, the science of mind philosophy can really help with that. Because when we really understand and know that we are one in the Spirit, that every time we turn our attention to that truth, we are underscoring our willingness to step into a deep relationship with the divine, that it is really shifting every aspect of our being in the four quadrants of life. And we may not even have to physically say something out loud about shifting it, because we are working so much within our spiritual practice with meditation and really keeping fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, right? That high resolve is knowing that God's in the mix. God's in the mix regardless of what I think. And what happens then is that we have it allows us then to walk through life with a sense of confidence, of connection, where every man and woman is our brother or sister, right? That we have a sense of walking through life knowing that everything is working out for me. And that even, and this is what I find to be the most curious thing about my own experience with religious science, is that within any challenge or struggle is the next opportunity for my deepening in this dance with the divine, right? And sometimes I go to the dance kicking and screaming, right? So there's that old thing you hear in 12-step meetings that, you know, I've never given up anything that didn't have claw marks on it, right? And sometimes that's been true for me, right? I had a slip with the cookies last week. Man, the food is like the final frontier, man. Talk about claw marks. Don't take my cookies. Precious. So it can feel like God is punishing. But it is sufficient to know, this is Thurman, it's sufficient to know for me that he is found in the midst of all that befalls me. So first, he is felt as being within and among the struggling elements of my experience, and then, out of the midst of these, his presence emerges and becomes one who stands by my side. It is then that I am lifted up and strengthened. Of course, you can see that his references are from a Christian perspective, right? And if we think of this he, him stuff, and just understand that to be the Spirit, in whatever way you know that to be, right? This is really important. So this is about developing your own unique spiritual realization of the Spirit, knowing that even that is never fixed, right? So we need, in this way, to obliterate the tomb as well, the tomb of our old thinking. It's not enough to just roll away the stone, but to understand that there is a tomb, and that tomb is our identity, right? Now, there are good things about ego. They help us navigate this world, right? And to the extent that we can create some space and become the observer in my life, then our life is no longer struggle and wrestling the steer every time trying to get our way, but rather stepping back and going, oh, there I go again. Okay, so release, let go. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. I stand in my oneness with the divine, knowing that I am an integrated being of spirit expressing on this human plane for the highest and best for myself and for those around me. Not for the sake of demonstrating more stuff and things, but rather to demonstrate the infinite power and presence and majesty of the divine. And so we speak our word with authority into the very mind of the Spirit itself. With authority. Knowing. Right? Knowing that it's already done. And then we release it. We let it go. And then we let the law figure it out. So, I had a really good story, but I can't tell you because I'm out of town. So let's call the musicians up. You'll have to come back next week and I'll share it with you. To be continued. All right. So let's just take a breath right here. And let's just consider today this, I just really want to acknowledge everyone who's here today, because it would have been, it's so easy to not be. And so I just acknowledge that call within you to come together in spiritual community, to see and to be seen, as the Spirit in expression. And so I would invite you today to consider the ways in how we can keep fresh, how to keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, regardless of whatever struggle or challenge you may be facing, or even the increase that you are now willing to come forward in ways of love, in friendship, in positive cash flow or career advancement, in being answering that call to be of service in some way, either to your spiritual community or in some other way. To allow these thoughts to come forward, to recognize that divine nudge that may have within it a divine itch, and our willingness today to say yes to that, yes to life. So let's practice that way of being and take that vibe into our work week and come back and check in next week.
Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen. Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen. Blessed always, blessed always, For the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say Amen. And let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say Amen. Oh, blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say Amen. And let these arms be so triumphant that we rest in God and say
Very nice. Let's give her some more love. All right. So as we prepare our gifts for the offering, Ken and the lads are going to take us in, and our singers as well.
Spirit gives through me, Spirit receives through me, Spirit lives and breathes through me. Spirit lives and breathes through me. Spirit gives through us, Spirit receives through us, Spirit lives and breathes through us. Spirit lives and breathes through us.
So going within for just a moment longer, recognizing and knowing that the gifts presented here this morning, whether online or here in the baskets here this morning, are a demonstration of consciousness that knows and knows that it knows that God is our source, our substance, our supply. And so through the generous heart from which these gifts have been offered here this morning, we, representing the heart of this spiritual community, accept these gifts with deep love and respect, as we know together they go forth to heal, to prosper, and to bless the life of each one here this morning, the life of anyone connected to our center in any way. That we extend these glad tidings and this blessing to our friends in our community of Granada Hills, our city of Los Angeles, our state of California, our United States of America, all of its churches, temples, mosques, schools, universities, the people who attend them, the people who support them. That we know for our planet as well, that there is a cycle of thought from the very mind of the divine itself expressing and impressing itself in, through, and as all of life. And to the extent that we know this to be so, we see it demonstrating in all ways, great and small. This lifts our hearts. We feel a sense of grace and power to take on all that life has to offer, and that's a good thing. And we acknowledge this by saying, and so it is. And please help me thank lovely Rita, basket maid, nothing can come between us, and Miss Chloe, and I think we have some children today. All right, welcome. All right. So, Andreas, I guess it's all you, bro. You feel like sharing what you did today?
I did this one.
It says God, me in the center. Nice.
God, me. Love, light, beautiful, power, peace, free, sharing, rest, spirit, energy, happy, life, giving, caring, energy, able.
Very nice. Thank you. All right. Well, thanks for bringing your children today. You're most welcome. I hope to meet you after the service if you don't run off. All right. So we do have some refreshments and snacks if you want to join us. Other than that, let's thank the lads one more time. And the lads and lassies over here. Thank you. And Angela Carol Brown. So Kirtankara is here Wednesday night, so please come and support that lovely, boy, you talk about expressing the divine in song, in sound, and in chanting. So come help us set the vibe for that along with the band. And maybe Angela will have some of her really great books. I don't know if you got any printed, but, maybe she would. But it's not about books that night, but maybe she's got a couple to sell. I don't know. Anyway, it's a great book. I read it, so check it out. All right, so let's get our ministers and practitioners to circle the room. And I invite Suzanne. Thank you all for being here today and not playing golf. It could be.
So if you'll join me in consciousness, we leave here today filled with spiritual grace, brought into oneness with life, spirit, God, whole and complete, ready to enjoy our Sunday. I know that we, being that inner joy, bring that inner joy out into the world and shine our light on everyone that we meet. We give our blessings, and it feels good. I declare that we arrive home safely and live our best day and week. All is well, and I give thanks. And I release my word knowing it's so, and together we say, and so it is.
Please stand for the peace song.
Let there be peace on earth and holy,